Hello, this is wmpyr here to do a review of Human Weapon episode eskrima. This was requested by Uncle Cal because I just recently did a Fight Quest review video on Savat. So this was my pleasure, and basically here are my impressions. So the first place they go to was the Doce Pares school, and it was a really cool segment where Bill actually asked the instructor. He said, am I supposed to hit the guy's feet or the guy's toes, because they told him to hit the ground, and the instructor was like, no, you're not hitting the ground, this is follow through. You hit the guy in the head, you're just following through all the way. So I thought that was cool. And then continuing on, there was a segment where they were training with the older instructor, and he said that this is not dance, that this is martial arts, and you really have to hit the target hard. So kind of along the same lines, I like that they emphasize that aspect. And so the first technique that they show using the computer animated figures and stuff like that, the first one was a cross arm throw. And back in the day when I first started martial arts, I probably would have thought it was cool and practiced it, but then like a year or two later, I started getting really cocky and arrogant, and I was very negative towards certain techniques and stuff that I felt if I thought it was unrealistic and stuff, then I would be highly critical of it. And this is one of those techniques for sure. I would have been extremely critical and negative towards it. Decades later, now when I'm looking at stuff like that, the way I feel is it's not the technique. It's really about you. And do you have the ability to make this technique work? It's not whether this technique works or not. It's can you evolve it? Can you modify it? Can you make it your own? And looking at it, I definitely feel that now, with a much more open mind, that I would have that kind of capability. What I personally would do with a lot of the trapping and disarm type techniques is I would just make it a lot more with a grappling flavor. That's just my background, and that's what I personally would do. And for me, then once I do that, practicality and effectiveness, I feel a lot more comfortable with it once I evolve it in that direction. So respect to the technique, in other words. The second thing that I want to talk about is the disarm. When they're showing disarms, what I really liked was as they're doing the disarm, like let's say this is the left hand is working on the disarm, the right hand is continuously attacking the whole time, so it's not like I'm just going to focus all on the disarm. So that kind of shows a very high level to me where you can multitask like that. And so the next part, they're training in Kali, and they show a grappling move, which was basically a modified half Nelson towards, it was a empty hand technique basically, where the guy was trying to tackle and take you down, and they went into like what I call a modified half Nelson. So that was kind of cool that they went into kind of like the grappling side of the Filipino martial arts. And number 4, I would say, is they went into a disarm against the thrust. And what was cool about this is they used a puño to go into an arm lock. They eventually go into an arm lock, but they used the puño to do the disarm. So the back part of the stick, they showed this aspect, that it's not just the long part of the stick that you're going to be using to your advantage. Number 5 is you attack, and when they block, you're just going to pass the stick and continue the attack. This is like standard trapping stuff, and that goes right away into the huba, the trapping, the tapi, that kind of stuff. So that was cool that they showed some of that as well. Number 6 is now we're talking about Pikiti Tertia. Now they went to the military base, and they showed the Marines training with the machete, which they call it's their version of the machete, which is the bolo. They also called it the knife, that is one heck of a big knife. The most impressive thing to me about this segment is you see all the Marines training with the bolo. Notice that they're all wearing backpacks, so they're all doing everything with the rucksack, with the gear on. So that to me is impressive, even though the techniques may seem, it's just solid basic foundation X strike, that kind of stuff. And then the actual technique that they demonstrate there is the empty hand technique. After the arm catch, they catch an arm, and then they go into an elbow. They actually elbow the arm, and then they go into like a chop to the neck. And that was cool that once again they're showing the empty hand aspect of Filipino martial arts. And when they go from the elbow to the hand strike, that's a figure eight motion right there. If you can kind of see it, and that comes from the sticks. So I thought that was really cool. And then we go back to Doce Pares, which is in the mountains, beautiful mountainside. And I really like how the instructor he says that twirling is not for show. And he says that it's to hit as many opponents as possible, which is that sounds really intense. But you could also interpret that as each opponent that you're hitting is also a target, so it's to hit as many targets as possible. So you know, if at a lower level you're not going to be taking on 4 or 5 guys at one time. I mean, you know, even at a high level you don't want to do something like that. But just the mentality that they have, that they're ready to take on, that this is for warfare and they're going to take on 4 or 5 guys, you know, that's very impressive. But you know, for me personally, I kind of more see it as like I'm trying to take out as many targets as possible. So that was really cool. Basically in the training overall, I saw that they worked on balance, very important. Tapi, which is the huba trapping type stuff. Training in the water, which challenges your movement because the footwork and that kind of stuff is very important. They actually did sparring. I don't understand the type of stick that they used for sparring. They said it was a metal rod on the inside and it was with a thin layer of cloth on the outside or something like that. I don't know how you can I'd have to feel it and see exactly what it feels like. That sounds a little too intense to me. And then where you're actually hitting targets like trees and stuff. So, you know, balance, tapi, training in water, sparring, and in trees. So I thought they covered a lot of good areas. They're pretty much just about everything you need for this style. And then the match at the end, I know it's always geared as the highlight. Me personally, it's the area that I like the least, just because I see it as basically as sparring. All right. There's nothing wrong with sparring, and you could definitely learn a lot from sparring. What I don't like about it is they make it seem like it's a lot more than that. They almost make it seem like it's a battle to the death, or like their reputation and their you know, their score is important. You know, like it's a competition or something like it's a real competition, and it's really. I believe that it's more of just like a sparring match. So I just don't like that they're making it seem like it's a lot more than it really is, and they force it as it's the highlight of the show, where I actually enjoy watching the training sequence. Although I do feel that sometimes the training sequence is a little bit, or should I say quite often, it's exaggerated to make it seem a lot harsher than it really would be. But anyway, you know, I hope you enjoyed my review. Thank you, and take care.